Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV. I think I may have found the ultimate budget controller from 8BitDo. They call this the Ultimate C, and it lacks some of the fancy bells and whistles from a feature standpoint that you might see on their more expensive controllers. But if you're looking to get a couple of extra controllers for your gaming rig, this will not break the bank, and it is exceptionally well constructed for its price point. It's compatible with Windows PCs along with most devices that support X input and direct input. But unlike some of the more expensive 8BitDo controllers, this does not, though, work with the Nintendo Switch or with iPads and iPhones. However, it will work with just about anything else out there that, again, supports direct input or X input. Now, before we get into this, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this came in free of charge from 8BitDo. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this new controller is all about. Now, the price point on this comes in at only $20 for the wired version that I have here. There is also a wireless version that costs $10 more. Now, the wired-only version, which is the one we have in front of us, comes in purple or green. The wire is built into the controller, so you can't swap it out with a longer one, but you get about 6 feet of length out of the cable. On the other end, though, you just have a USB-A connection here, not a USB-C, so you might need to bring along a little docking station or get an adapter if you do have a USB-C only device to plug it into. The wireless version has a 2.4 gigahertz dongle that will come in the box, and you can connect up that way, but the wireless one does not support Bluetooth. You have to use its USB dongle to get it connected. Now, although this is a budget controller, the build on it feels really solid for its price point. The plastic feels nice and high quality. It doesn't creak or anything. Everything is put together quite well. It's not all that heavy, coming in at 240 grams or just under 9 ounces or so. On the back of the controller, you have a nice texture here for a good grip. The sticks feel really nice. These are not Hall effect sticks. They are your standard Alps sticks. I wouldn't expect the more expensive stick option on this model, but they track very well, and I'll show you that in a little bit. You've got your standard Xbox layout here. You have an excellent D-pad that is modeled after some of the retro controllers that they've put together. Although I'm not crazy about where the D-pad is positioned on Xbox controllers, it does do, I think, a very nice job for retro gaming if you don't mind controlling it from that position. They do have a controller called the 8BitDo Pro 2 that is shaped like a PlayStation controller, where that D-pad is in the position where the thumbstick is here on this Xbox-style controller. In addition to your standard buttons here, you also have analog triggers that feel really nice with a good range of motion, and of course your standard triggers here at the top. Now, as you might be able to hear from the fans blowing here, I've got my gaming laptop hooked up and the controller connected to it. I found that it defaults, at least in my experience, to X input mode, which of course is ideal for Windows computers. If you want to use it in direct input mode, what you have to do is hold down the B button when you plug it into the computer or device. Likewise, to switch it back to X input, you'll hold down the X button when you plug it into the device to get that mode switch. It doesn't look like you can switch modes while the controller is connected, so you have to have that button push held down at the time you connect. If all is good, you will have a solid light around the 8BitDo button here at the top. And I gotta say, the overall experience of using the controller is quite good. The only knock I've got against it is the dead zones on the sticks here. So if I start moving the stick here, you can see it takes a little bit of movement to get that camera going. Once you get past that dead zone, it will work fine. They do have a mode where if you push down the minus and plus buttons and hold it down for a second, it will basically turn off the dead zone. But I found even when you do that, it still requires a bit of stick movement here to get things registered. So a little less perhaps when that mode is enabled, but it definitely will have a dead zone here that might be an issue for some enthusiasts out there. But I think for kind of the casual market that this is aimed at, you will be impressed with how this feels overall. And the buttons here feel very nice. They remind me a lot of the Xbox controller. Good travel on them. No complaints there. If you were curious about the analog triggers here, you can see how those actuate here as well. So a little less of a dead zone here on the analog trigger versus the control sticks. And as I mentioned earlier, it's got this really nice retro-inspired D-pad here with a lot of travel, a good tactile feel, a nice firm feel to it. And I also found that it does not appear to register errant diagonals when you quickly go left and right on the D-pad. That's something we always look for when we're testing out a D-pad here, and this one connected up to my Mister passed with flying colors. Now, unlike some of the other 8BitDo controllers we've looked at recently, this one does not work with their customization software. So what you see is what you get. You can't remap controls on the hardware side. Although one thing you can do is program in Turbo. So right now I've got an emulator up here, and if I hit my sword button here, you can see it only registers once. But if I hold down the button and then push the star here, that will enable a turbo feature. You can't adjust the speed of that, but you can enable turbo on the buttons here. It doesn't work on the analog controls, but all the buttons can be mapped to allow for a turbo function to be enabled. And if you want to turn it off, you just repeat the process here, and it goes back to its default. Now, a little bit earlier, I tested the input lag of the controller by shooting a screen at 240 frames per second and seeing how long it took for a button push to get registered on screen. This controller performed every bit as good as a wired Xbox controller did on the same PC, so I don't expect to see any real input lag here on this controller versus some of the other name brand ones out there. And all in, this is a really good value. It doesn't work with the Nintendo Switch, it doesn't work with Apple devices, but it works with just about everything else. And if you have a Raspberry Pi running RetroPie, for example, or a Mister or a PC, or even a Mac just running some emulators, this will work great with all of them. Very minimal input lag, really nice build quality, great motors on the rumble side of things, and all in, it's a great primary controller for casual gamers and certainly a great secondary one too. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Chris Allegretta, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Logic KGR, Tom Albrecht, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.